uh, joined here with Sam Thompson on Canadian Mortgage Weekly Live. Welcome to our 31st episode, and we're so glad that you're joining us today on this awesome info-packed episode. I'm always excited about mortgages, and we have Sam Thompson with us today, who's also just as excited about me as with mortgages. And Sam, he moved from Ottawa just over a year ago and has been a mortgage agent now with our team for over a year. He's helping our clients with their mortgages right now. And if you ever need anything, definitely a great place to call. Sam, welcome to the show today. How are you?
I'm doing good, Joe. Thanks for the introduction. It's good to be here. Episode 31. I mean, I feel like I say it every episode, but it's crazy to think that we've been doing this for, 31 episodes. But like you're saying, we have a really good one today.
Yes.
And you gave yourself a small introduction. I'll embellish it a little bit. So for anyone who doesn't know Joe or hasn't seen any of our previous videos, Joe has been in the industry for over 10 years. He's currently living up in Aurelia with his family. He's got 2 kids. And yeah, just a real wealth of knowledge. I know I relay a lot to Joe for the tough questions or, for any insider information. Joe's the guy. So thanks for joining us, Joe. I'm happy to be here today.
Oh, thanks very much, Sam. And thanks for that welcome as well. So if you're just joining us right now, welcome to Canadian Mortgage Weekly Live. Sam and I are on here every week just going over what's going on in the mortgage market. And Sam, we got some really interesting news coming out right now, don't we?
We do.
Yeah.
There's a possibility that the fixed rates could be dropping soon. Is that true, Joe, over the next maybe week or month or so?
Yeah, and you know what, Sam, we were talking about that earlier, and it is something that I could see happening anytime now because the 5-year bond yield, not sure if anyone follows that, but if you are a follower of the 5-year bond yield, you can see that it has been slowly declining over the last few weeks. And it's a very slight decline, but I'm wondering if it's enough to trigger a fixed rate decrease by some of the banks.
Wow. Well,
Yeah.
that would definitely be awesome, and I'm sure it would, even further influence people to get going in the market. I know that the last video we did was about, maybe not waiting, and now is a really good time to jump in the market. So if they could see that drop, that would be awesome, and one extra motivation to get into the housing market.
Exactly. I could totally see that happening. And it's really going to depend on where that bond yield goes over the next week or two. So if any one of you are watching, definitely keep an eye out on that, because if it does drop probably another 0.05 to 0.1, I could see banks coming out with some new specials for fixed rates. Yeah. But in terms of rates dropping and 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 how that affects everything, it could stimulate the market that much more coming towards the end of the summer, going into the fall. And it also could help people afford that higher mortgage. As another thing we've been seeing, Sam, we've been seeing that people, when they're calling us, they want to qualify and they want to know what their max mortgage amount is. And that is very important, as you've heard and seen.
Yes. Yeah. Everybody, I mean, it also is seeming to be more of a necessity. It's not so much that, okay, this is your max approval, we can come under that, or, you're safe to be purchasing a house 100,000 below that, maybe even 50,000 below that. But we are seeing more people having to go with their maximum, and we're playing a real numbers game, trying to get people to qualify for the most that they can, just to stay competitive in today's market.
Yeah. So with those rates that they could possibly come down, it could help those folks afford that payment for that higher mortgage, especially now with the market the way it is. The house prices are so much higher, and having a lower payment, if possible, is really going to help them get into that home, because we've seen some news articles say that the majority of Canadians are now using their actual max approved mortgage amount. The majority of the Canadians are, which is some interesting news on its own.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. So with that in mind, I'm not sure if you're ready to get started on our presentation today, but
Absolutely.
the content seems really interesting to me because it's something that, with us dealing a lot with first-time home buyers, Sam,
Mhm.
it's something that really can impact somebody, buying a house from renting to having a mortgage.
Absolutely, yeah. I know that we've seen, some people are deciding to stay renting so that maybe they can in the future qualify for a home purchase. But we were spurred to do this topic based on an article we chatted about last week that said, there was some shifts, and now Barrie, where I'm currently renting, as well as I'm sure many people watching, has become the most expensive city to rent in Ontario for a one bedroom. So that kind of got our wheels turning of, what are rent prices like out there? And yeah, continuing into what it would look like, renting versus owning, because I think that's a very common question that we get, right, Joe?
It is, yeah. And just if we can help show home buyers that owning is better, then it makes their decision a lot smoother. And when they're putting together their finances, they can see, they can look at their goals over the next 5 years. And I'm sure you're going to get into the presentation
Mhm.
really shortly here, but with looking at how much someone can afford versus renting versus buying, they will see that they can end up much further ahead one way versus the other.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what the rent prices are across Canada,
Mhm.
and to go into seeing um, exactly how that will affect everybody as well.
Absolutely. So why don't we just get started here?
Great.
All right. So yes, rent prices across Canada, episode 31. Still seems crazy to say, but
It's very
um,
crazy.
but yeah. So as we were chatting, a lot of buyers are looking at, just continuing renting while maybe they're figuring out financial plans, which isn't a bad strategy. If they're
Mhm.
chatting with us, and even if you reach out to us for a pre-qualification and we find, what, maybe you're still 4 months out from being able to, qualify, chatting with us is going to be the best first step you can make, because we can really give you some insight into where you qualify. And as I was saying, from the article, we're seeing that Barrie is now number one. There's a shift that's happening even in the rental market. Everyone's focus is always on, what are the house prices? How much do I need to afford to make a purchase? But we're also seeing, because of the Toronto exodus, that Barrie has become, and surrounding areas, their rent has seen an increase and they've seen a change. So let's just take a quick look at how COVID and how the last little while has affected some of the rent prices across Canada.
Yeah, this is going to be really interesting to see. And so Barrie, you're saying, is on top, right?
Barrie is on top. We're starting with the most expensive in Ontario, just because it's sort of perked at least our ears, right? Living in Simcoe County, but it's now currently $1,730 per month for a one bedroom, or just shy of $2,000 for a two-bedroom apartment. Which, the one bedroom price is quite daunting.
It really is. It's really sad to see the rent prices go up this high, but at the same time, house prices have gone up as well. So it's almost like it's almost twice as good now to get into the housing market as well.
That's right. That's right. I'm just looking over at our neighbors in Toronto. One bedroom price lower, cheaper if you're looking for a one bedroom, apartment in Toronto. You're looking at schooling down there or something. Now's the time to, put your feelers out, get some applications in there, because it's no longer the most expensive at 1710 per month, and a two bedroom is still sitting quite high at 200 over 2,000, so 2,200 a month.
I wonder how that will work out for all the Airbnbs in downtown Toronto, all the condos that
That's
are
right.
down there, and all
Mhm.
the duplexes and triplexes that people own down there. How are investors going to weather this change, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point, because there's, it's not just official rentals, but, Airbnbs or things like that could be affected as well.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see that for sure.
And taking a short journey up to Ottawa, my old stomping grounds. Awesome picture of the Byward Market. One bedroom is actually down at $1,500 a month, or even a two bedroom for $1,800 a month, which isn't bad. I know Ottawa is a big government town, so maybe if you're looking at a job in the government or wanting to segue into that, you can get some pretty good rent while you find a footing in the Ottawa area.
Yeah, that's a really nice price for rent right there. Something that if anyone is considering renting long term, Ottawa's always been a good place for job opportunities as well. So it's a good place to live, and yeah, definitely a lot cheaper than Barrie right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you stay with us, we'll see that it's even cheaper if you are interested in bagels or Schwartz's. I don't know if anyone's been to Montreal with the nice big Schwartz sandwiches.
Oh yeah.
The rent is only $13.60 per month for a one bedroom, which seems awesome considering everything that Montreal has to offer.
Yeah, that's fantastic rent, even lower than Ottawa. And I know that Montreal, like you're saying, it's a great place because you got the nightlife and you got the bagels. Schwartz's Deli there. I know that place. I've been there before. You get the good, you get the mustard and the pickle with your sandwich.
That's right.
I know what you're talking about. And you got the main deli across the street.
That's right. Yeah.
Which doesn't have the line.
That's right. You got to be prepared to wait if it's Schwartz's, but
that's right. But it's totally worth it for the experience. I mean, the whole place is good there. But yes, Montreal, that is really interesting because for a place like Montreal, you would expect it to have a higher rent price.
Absolutely, even closer to Toronto's prices, but it's coming in even cheaper.
Yeah.
Now, if we take a quick look out west, this one, you might have some familiar ties with out in Calgary.
There you go.
Where it's very cheap for a one-bedroom apartment.
Wow. Yeah, it's very cheap. I mean, it could be also to do with the oil industry right now. The oil industry has had some changes, but it is a lot cheaper to live in Calgary than Montreal, especially Barrie.
Right. Yeah. And not a huge difference from one bedroom to two bedroom, which is quite crazy. You might as well just pay an extra $200 and get a two bedroom place.
That's right. So if you need a home office and you're a single person, definitely just opt out for the two bedroom.
That's right. And then a quick trip to the most expensive city, I believe, in all of Canada for rentals, where a one bedroom is going to set you back $2,000 a month, or just shy of $3,000 for a two bedroom apartment. That is wild.
Wow. And it's funny that doesn't come as a surprise to us, I imagine, Sam.
Yes.
I mean, with Vancouver, it's right on the water. It's limited to that land, but locked with the land and the water and the mountains there. But what a beautiful city that is, though.
Absolutely, yeah.
But yeah, still not too far off from Barrie. It seems like really Barrie's approaching Vancouver status here.
We will keep you updated on Canadian Mortgage Weekly if we see Barrie creeping into that territory. Hopefully not. I'm trying to find something wood to knock on.
Yeah.
But we will take a trip over to our eastern coast where we look at St. John's, where, man, $880 a month or $960 a month for a two bedroom. They're basically giving rentals away down east. So if you're looking to save some change, even on your monthly rent prices, down east seems like the place to be.
Yeah, you know what? This is the lowest cost rent so far. I can't believe we're still seeing rent in Canada under $1,000 a month.
That's right.
That is fantastic. St. John's. And great, like, look at that place. The uniqueness of the buildings. I love the way they're all different colors.
Yeah, it's a beautiful place.
Yeah. So.
And our final destination for today's tour is going to be just over in Halifax, where we are seeing prices a bit higher, still quite low, lower than Montreal, lower than Ottawa. Just over 1,200 a month, or just over 1,600 a month for a 2-bedroom.
This is very reasonable, and it's a great place to live. I know Halifax is in Nova Scotia. It's close to everything. It seems like when you're in Halifax, you can drive anywhere in 2 hours.
That's right. Yeah, and definitely these are, becoming more common destinations that we've seen. I know we've chatted with quite a few people who are, prospectively moving down east for, cheaper living, as well as it's got a real nice flavor down east. I've been a number of times, and it's probably one of my favorite places in Canada. It's a lot of fun, and you get good coastal communities. So definitely something that we've seen progressively happening more and more.
Yeah, definitely. We've seen this so much. We've had clients move out of province. We're working with people right now that are moving out of province. I'm sure it's going to continue. Yeah. So something that makes sense for some people, and this information will help them, is if they are moving, some people need to get a job set up in that new city. So renting for a few months might make sense.
Absolutely, yeah. So what we're going to do now is we're going to transition a bit. We've seen, where renting is at, and it's not necessarily a cheaper option anymore. It's not, something that we're seeing people are saving lots of money in doing. So we're going to just look at roughly what the numbers are like versus somebody who's rented for 5 years and somebody who has owned. So quickly, just to break down, these are very general. We could do a whole nother video. If you want to see a video about a full breakdown comparison, write something in the comments, reach out to us somehow, and we can get that in the works. But for today, we're going to cover off just some pros, cons, and a brief look at what the numbers look like if you were to rent versus owning.
Okay.
So we can see that there are pros and cons to each. For renting, the startup cost, you're not looking at putting a full down payment. You're not looking at having to organize a realtor, mortgage agent, a lawyer. I'm realizing I inadvertently put the pros and cons, that the tops are actually on the owning side. Oh, wait, no.
Think
It's a little jumbled, but we'll just keep pressing on. The startup cost for renting is just first and last, that deposit. There's no additional services required. I mean, I know in Barrie, I had heard some people are looking for realtors to help them get rentals. There's bidding wars still going on. So case to case scenario, that one's not always true. Plus, you're able to deduct your rent off of your year-end taxes, which unfortunately mortgage payments are not deducted. That's not something that you can process at all.
Yeah, that's all very good points. To be able just to have first and last month's rent, it adds so much flexibility to being able to be mobile.
Absolutely. Yeah. And there are different cases for renting. Like we're saying, if you're moving to a new area, some rentals work month to month, meaning you're not locked in. You won't lose your deposit if you leave, within the year. There's a bit more flexibility. And then the cons of renting is you're not actually paying into any equity. You are, keeping the payments each month. You don't have to worry about fixing anything up. That's where you call the landlord at 2 a.m. that the toilet's leaking and it's their problem. But your money also is just going directly to the landlord. You're not building equity, and once you finish renting, you don't take anything with you. You just finish the contract, and that's sort of where you're left off.
That's right. Yeah, it doesn't leave you with anything to take home at the end of the day. But it does give you that ability to just be able to have extra mobility without too much investment upfront.
Absolutely. And that takes us over to the pros of owning. So you can get that same payment for a 5-year term. We can get you into a fixed rate. You know, as we were chatting about earlier in the episode, we might be seeing fixed rates dropping a bit, which would be awesome. So you'll actually keep that payment, and each payment is going to be going towards building equity, owning more of your home as you're paying down the mortgage, which is an awesome thing, you know, for anybody who, you know, has owned a home and reached the end of their mortgage with no more mortgage payments. Now their entire house, you know, value, equity, it's all theirs. They own it outright, which is something that I think a lot of us would love to, you know, achieve and reach that at a retirement stage.
Absolutely, yeah. Having that is a good nest egg. So when you get to that point, you know, if there's anything left over, it's great to have your house there for you to be able to get you through those later years in life. And you can turn your home into an income producing asset by renting part of it out, or
Right.
taking on a reverse mortgage. There's always ways to do that, or selling and getting the money out that way.
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
just looking into very brief numbers here, we've calculated the average cost of renting over 5 years. So because, you know, I'm renting in Barrie, we're really operating out of Simcoe area. We're going to use the number one Ontario expensive city of a 1-bedroom apartment. So you were signing a lease for $1,730 a month. Startup cost you're going to have to pay is actually quite low, considering, you know, all of the costs included in a startup for buying a property. So the startup cost is only $3,460, but the landlord has the ability to raise your rent 1.2% each year, and likely will. So we have tallied that into the calculation. So after 5 years, you're paying just over $100,000, assuming that year after year they increase the rent by 1.2%.
Wow, it's really interesting and eye-opening to see those numbers. I'm sure that every renter right now is probably thinking, okay, well, what are the numbers for the mortgage side? Because this is very large.
Absolutely, absolutely. So when we look at the numbers when you're owning for over 5 years, so they've found a very modest house for 450 in Barrie. They've locked into a 5-year fixed with a interest rate of 2.09%. So they've gone in, because, you know, they're first time buyers. They've gone in with a minimum 5% down, just over 22,000. We've estimated some legal fees of about 2,000. And after they received their first time buyer land transfer tax rebate, they only have to pay just over $1,000 for their land transfer taxes.
Mm-hmm.
So this works
Wow.
out bi-weekly to be only $877. So you can see their total payments after the 5 years aren't that much different than the payments that a renter is making after those same 5 years.
That is really, really eye-opening and amazing, really, because what was it on the renting side? I was just under that amount, like
106,000.
106,000. So roughly the exact same amount.
Yeah, yeah. The payments worked out to be quite similar. But here's where it gets really awesome if you're a
Mm-hmm.
buyer, because you'll see that your mortgage balance at maturity has dropped to 373,000 and change. And, you know, because you're looking at refinancing, you decide, or even just renewing your mortgage, you decide to get an appraisal based on an average appreciation. We can assume this house is now worth 605, meaning which means that at the end of that 5 years, you now have 232,000 approximately in household equity. So that, again, we've seen people lots of times, even before their 5-year maturity, using that equity for a refinance to maybe consolidate debts, like you're saying, to purchase maybe a rental property. We've done lots of refinance videos in the past for that equity, because that money is yours, you know, to use before, you know, needing to sell or paying off the full mortgage.
That's right. Yes. A lot of people don't really realize that their equity is theirs to use. They can keep it in the house and have it paid off, and it's there waiting to be used when they sell. Or they could use it while they own the home and re-borrow that money, like you're saying, Sam, to purchase an investment property, or maybe a cottage. And I've seen clients, and we've seen clients also do other things with the money that could be something else, like renovations
Hmm.
or other purposes. But the point is, and it's really clear here, is that the amount of payments a renter versus owning an owner would make into that home would be very similar, and the owner would end up with over $200,000 in equity at the end of the day.
Hmm.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
And
it's a huge change for sure.
yeah. So, I mean, if any renter out there is looking at this and wondering if they want to see what they could qualify for, I think that they should give us a call right away, because we can
Hmm.
run the numbers for you, show you exactly where you're at today. And Sam, we can then turn around and say, you know what, you're at here today. Let's see what it's going to take you to get here.
Hmm.
And hopefully we can give you a good roadmap as to where you need to be and how you're going to get there.
Absolutely. Just chatting with us and starting that conversation is always going to be, the best first place to start so that we can see where you're at and what your goals are.
That's great. Thanks, Sam, very much for putting that presentation together.
Hmm.
It's really nice to go across Canada like that and just take a look at the rent prices like that. I know we did a Canada Day special there where we went across Canada for the average home prices.
Hmm.
It's been sort of a going theme this July.
That's right.
Excellent. Well, I mean, looking forward to seeing if anyone else has any questions. Give a comment below or send us a private message over social media. We'll make sure that we get back to you. And if you're looking for specialized mortgage numbers in tune to your situation, Sam and I can also help take care of that for you and get that going.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so next week, Sam, we have episode number 32.
32.
Yeah, and it's going to be a good one. I think that everyone needs to tune in that's a first-time home buyer or that's not a first-time home buyer and wants a refresher as to who is your home buying team.
Hmm. This is
Yeah,
really important. And I think it's a step, as we were discussing, that people don't really realize, right? They need a realtor and they need a broker. And that's about the extent of what they know. But we know that, knowing what's required from all of your home buying team and the timelines and how that works out, as well as, what makes a good, home appraiser, realtor, mortgage agent. Going through all those details are super important.
yeah, it is really super important. And the more you can know up front as a homeowner, home buyer, and just knowing what to expect, how the interactions go and how long they take, and sort of what information to have prepared. As you know, Sam, I was joking with you earlier. Every time I call my insurance broker, they want to know where my fire hydrant is.
Right.
So just knowing what information to have ready when you're calling them and how long that's going to take, tune in next week and we'll make sure that we go through that in detail so you can have that as a refresher ready to go. And if you have anyone that could use our information, tell them to tune in to our show on Thursdays at 11:30. And if you're looking to look at past episodes, we have uploaded past episodes. And Sam, this is an exciting thing I wanted to announce. It's go to www.canadianmortgageweekly.ca and you can watch past episodes of our show.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. Okay, guys. Well, I don't know if there's any questions. Do you see any questions there, Sam?
I don't think I see any on my side here.
Okay, that's great. So usually what everyone does is they usually send a private message anyway. So I look forward to getting those. And thank you for joining us today, Sam.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And thank you everybody for joining us in today's video.